Trump and Republicans would absolutely prefer that everyone talk about the Vances being pariahs in Greenland than talk about what Elon Musk and Dodge are reportedly doing to Social Security and potentially the 70 million Americans who receive Social Security. Wired reports, quote, the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, Dodge, is starting to put together a team to migrate the Social Security Administration's computer systems entirely off one of its oldest programming languages in a matter of months, potentially putting the integrity of the system and the benefits on which tens of millions of Americans rely at risk. Under any circumstances, a migration of this size and scale would be a massive undertaking, experts tell Wired, but the expected deadline runs the risk of obstructing payments. Of course, one of the big risks is not underpayment or overpayment per se. It's also not paying someone at all and not knowing about it. The invisible errors and omissions, an SSA technologist tells Wired. Joining us now is senior politics editor at Wired, Leah Feiger. Leah, thank you so much for starting us off on the show today. I just want to say this because there are so many different terrible things that Elon Musk has attempted to do to our government. But I'm thinking of this transfer of technology for the Social Security Administration. Look, I've worried about going to Best Buy and getting something transferred from my laptop to my iPad, right? That can take all day. We're talking about millions of people of all ages all over the country. How long should a process like this take if it were done carefully and effectively and efficiently?
Hi, Jason. Thank you so much for having me. Look, the Social Security Administration has actually looked into moving its systems off of COBOL for years now. It's an archaic coding system from the 1950s, and they've looked into moving it onto something more modern like Java. But during this, they predicted that a migration would take 5 years to safely happen. And Dodge's team wants to do it in months.
So that sounds crazy. I mean, just to be perfectly clear. But here's the other problem, and I'm curious, based on your writing and your reporting, how do they plan to do that? Because usually, if you're going to do something faster than the estimated timeline, it's because you're going to put more people on the job, right? If it takes 3 years with 1,000 people working 24 hours a day, I'll put 3,000 people, and then maybe we can take 1 year. How is Dodge planning on doing this so much faster? How are they taking a 5-year job and turning it into a 4-month job? Because it doesn't seem like they're hiring new people. If anything, they're cutting people out of the government.
Right. Well, sources told Wired reporter McKenna Kelly that in order to migrate all of this code into the more modern language within a few months, they'd likely need to employ some form of artificial intelligence to help translate the millions and millions lines of code. This is an undertaking that could really break just so many things. Even minor changes could result in massive failures across programs, delaying payments, miscalculating payments, and losing beneficiary data entirely and across the way. It's a really, really dangerous thing that could be coming soon.
And Leah, I want to just close with this because this is also something that concerns me. How much can we trust who's responsible for this transfer? Because a lot of these people who seem to be working for Elon Musk, they're under his supervision, but they're not really being held accountable by Congress. We don't know who's doing this. We don't know if there could be leaks of this information. This is very private, intimate information about millions of Americans that could be sold to anybody. How do we know who's actually going to do this job? And are they accountable to anybody other than Musk?
That's a great question. And while it's not clear to us exactly when this project would begin, sources are anticipating it happening soon. And Steve Davis, a senior Doge leader and one of Elon Musk's key lieutenants who's been with him at a number of his other companies, is organizing this effort. And Wired reporting last week actually showed that there were so many more Doge people at SSA than anyone had previously thought, and possibly among the largest Doge units deployed to any government agency. And we're talking about names that have popped up time and time again. Akash Boba, Scott Coulter, Marco Elez, Luke Ferreter. These are familiar names if you've been following all of this. And again, really key to this, they don't have experience in these massive government systems. They don't have government experience. So in terms of who they are loyal to, that's a really difficult question that I don't feel comfortable getting into. But we know that they have largely worked with Musk organizations in the past. They were brought in by Musk lieutenants, and they're the ones with the keys to the kingdom right now.
In other words, Leah Feiger, we don't know if we can trust them at all. Thank you so much for starting us off with that sobering news tonight. Great reporting.
Thank you.
Turn up the volume for this one. The Social Security Administration is rolling out more sweeping changes. NBC News reports the new acting commissioner outlined his vision for the agency in a memo to the staff, including plans to explore AI and boost anti-fraud efforts to prevent improper payments. The Trump administration and DOJ have claimed there's widespread fraud at the agency. Elon Musk has called it a Ponzi scheme, suggesting it pays out benefits to millions of dead Americans and undocumented immigrants. But for fact's sake, let's tell you the truth. In 2023, Inspector General report found less than 1% of benefits payments between 2015 and 2022 were improper. And most of those payments were overpayments, not payments to dead people or unqualified Americans. Martin O'Malley joins us now. He's the former Social Security Administration commissioner under President Biden and the former Democratic governor from the great state of Maryland. He is also the author of Smarter Government, How to Govern for Results in the Information Age. I am so glad you are here because we would all agree Social Security can be improved. But DOJ and this administration wants to cut 7,000 more jobs. What is that going to do to this agency?
It's absolutely going to crater this agency. In fact, Stephanie, I think Elon Musk and Donald Trump and their DOJ team have probably taken all of the actions, or 90% of the actions they need to take, that'll guarantee that this agency heads into a system collapse. What do I mean by a system collapse? I mean, at first, what you're going to see is a huge exodus. In fact, they're wasting a ton of money paying people for the whole year ahead to leave right now. You're going to see that huge exodus and brain drain from the very people who understand not only how to code the foundational computer language of COBOL, but who understand the architecture and what's stacked up upon it. Then you will see, as we already have started to, intermittent outages of some of those stacks that allow you to process certain types of claims or allow you to go onto the MySSA website and check your own earnings records.
How does any of that solve for waste, fraud, abuse, or inefficiency?
It is the biggest waste of money is taking an agency that's already been reduced by 10 years of House Republican cuts. They're serving more people than ever because of baby boomers like me raising their active beneficiaries to an all-time high, and yet their staffing is at a 50-year low. So that's why this hits them at such a critical time. I was honored to be there last year. I watched those dedicated public servants turn that leaking battleship on a dime, but it's only this far above the waterline. And after these intermittent outages, or at the same time, you're going to see every wait time go in the wrong direction. After it being made to go in the right direction last year, people are going to wait longer in the field offices. People are going to wait longer on the 800 number. They're going to wait longer for initial disability determinations, which, oh, by the way, more Americans die now waiting for that initial disability determination than ever before. Ultimately, these things are all going to cascade and going to result in an interruption of benefits. How soon that will happen, I don't exactly know, but I believe it'll be in the next 90 days. How long will it last?
Why would they want to do this? I'm pretty sure they know senior citizens vote.
And they've also been warned. Very recently, there was an internal memo saying, wait a minute, this is by the people they haven't already fired. I mean, they replaced a very capable acting commissioner because she dared to stand up and say to this fourth-level promotee, this guy who admitted online that he shared information with DOJ and was put on administrative leave because of violating agency protocols.
So why are they doing this?
I believe that they need to wreck the agency and take away its capacity to serve the public in order to turn the public against it. In other words, Stephanie, I believe they want to wreck it so that they can rob it. What they want to do with the $2.7 trillion that was built up in the reserves to cover that baby boomer generation, I don't know. But I do know that all of the actions they are taking are, by any objective person looking at it, these are things that are going to crater the agency and make it impossible for them to serve the public well.
Fact check this for me, because Elon Musk also likes to claim falsely, that Social Security is a way for Democrats to make payments to undocumented immigrants. But the truth is, undocumented immigrants do not collect Social Security. They do, however, pay billions into it every single year. Okay, I mean, they're actually subsidizing it for the rest of Americans who collect it.
And, you know, shame on us, and I say this as a Democrat, they put a lot of money behind this lie in a lot of the swing states. I was always visiting states, and people showed me the mailers that they were sending out and that they were receiving at home. And they were saying, candidate Harris wants to let more illegal immigrants in to bankrupt your Social Security. And the truth is, people working here out of legal status, those so-called illegal immigrants, pay in $22 billion a year for you and me, that they'll never see a dime. $22 billion a year. There's lots of big lies. And, you know, Social Security, the customer service challenges can be easily solved. But you have to let this agency operate at the traditional 1.2% overhead to benefits that they did every year until about 10 years ago when they started getting cut. And the so-called solvency crisis that's coming up in 2035, also a totally solvable problem. You just remove the the cap on the highest earners, and that will extend the trust fund that was built up intentionally to cover the baby boomers. There's a lot of lies being told about Social Security, and this, like cratering their ability to serve the public, is all about discrediting the agency. And they need to do that in order to steal from the agency. So the American people, the only thing that's going to save us is if the democracy rises up to stop the steal of their Social Security benefits. So a woman asked me at a town hall just now with Congressman Panetta that I did on the phone before coming up here. She said, well, if they crater the agency in order to liquidate it and to get the trust fund, I'm still going to get back the money that I put in, aren't I?
Sister.
It's not the way. That's not the way it works. Social Security last year paid out $1.4 trillion in benefits, and they were paid for by $1.3 trillion from all of us that are still working in the economy. And then they took the difference from that trust fund as it was designed to, and why they built up the surplus. So the reason why the democracy needs to stop this steal is because the only way you're ever going to get back all the credits you earned in Social Security is to keep the co-presidency from stealing Social Security and cratering its ability to serve you, your kids, and your grandkids.
Well, thank you for educating us tonight.
Hey, thank you,
Good
Stephanie.
to see you.